What's going on, guys? Kevin here on Kevin Specs. So I'm having a really good time with my YouTube channel and interacting with you guys, because that's what it's all about. It's all about talking to you guys. I love it. So please like, add, share my channel, and tell your friends. I'm trying to grow. My goal right now, I want to get above 1,000 viewers, and yeah, I just never knew that I could I guess have this much fun with a YouTube channel. The whole reason why I actually started this YouTube channel to begin with was because I work at this little Toyota dealership here in Colville, Toyota, and because we're in a rural area, if you want to get anywhere, you got to drive. I mean, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so we do a lot of business with folks that are outside our area, and a lot of people can't drive down to look at a car. And so the easiest way for me is, hey, I'll just take a little video tour of the car and I'll send you the link. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I'm like, you know what? Why don't I take this YouTube channel thing a step further, and I'll start doing video reviews on vehicles and posting that kind of like a social media thing, and then seeing what I can do as far as interacting with you guys, because that's my favorite part. And goodness, I mean, I was looking at my 2025 Camry video, and I've already got like 30 some comments on there, and I'm just interacting with people on there. One of the guys I talked to, he said, hey, you talked in your video about you used to own 3 other Camrys. Tell us about that. And so that's actually what this video is going to be about. This is going to be more of a story time than anything. But goodness, it doesn't have to be a brand new Toyota. If you guys have a vehicle that you can think of that you'd really like to see a video review on, if I have it here on my lot, I'll do my best to try and accommodate that. Maybe it's a piece of Toyota technology that you don't understand, that you'd like to have a deeper dive on, and I will do research personally, and I will share all of my knowledge with you guys. Maybe it's something mechanical on these Toyotas. Maybe you just want to know my opinion, because me personally, I kind of nerd out on all the mechanical and technological stuff, and I like to know the specs. That's why my channel is called Kevin Specs, but I'm also inspecting. It's a play on words. I don't know. I thought it was clever at the time, and now it's just kind of stuck. So anyway, I've owned 3 Camrys. I like project vehicles, so I buy a lot of old rigs. I'm not like a lot of other people here at my work who are buying new cars. My wife drives the newest thing we have. She's got a 2014 FJ Cruiser. I literally just got rid of my 96 F250 diesel. Had a guy come on the lot and he's like, hey, have you ever thought of selling your vehicle? And I was like, well, until this minute I hadn't, but everything's got a price. And he gave me what I wanted. And so my coworkers were like, well, what are you gonna do now? And I'm like, I'm gonna go buy another vehicle. And I've always wanted a Land Cruiser, so I went and got this 92 FJ80 Land Cruiser. This has got the 4-liter inline 6, and great vehicle. So I'm super excited to start modding this. I already welded up a big old flat top rack for the top. I got a light bar that I'm gonna put on the top of it. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about that. More to come that I will share with you guys once we get there. I'll do a little video tour on this guy, and I can show you guys what it's like to live with, because it's a fun vehicle. It's got its quirks, but I love it. So anyway, the 3 Camrys I owned back when I graduated high school. I was about 19 years old. I had a girlfriend that I dated for about 5 years. We were together for quite a while. Her name was Nikki. Nikki, if you're watching, how's it going? But Nikki's grandma, she had a 1990 Camry all-track, and the all-track was all-wheel drive essentially. They got rid of that in 1990 on the Camrys, and they didn't come back with it for 22, 23 years. Because goodness, it wasn't until last year that they started offering that as an option on the Camrys again. So, long time, but I had that car, and funny story. So, my parents were going through a divorce. That's another thing, but they were moving, and my mom, we lived way out in the country. My mom owned a second house in town, and I want to be in town. You know, I'm a young guy. I want to be near my girlfriend and have fun and stuff like that. And so she let me move into this place, pay her rent, and so I did. And I had all of my stuff in the back of this Camry and locked it up and parked it in the back alley. And in the middle of the night, these little, I don't know, gangbangers or whatever you want to call them, thieves, they came and they took a screwdriver and hammered out the locks on my Camry and stole it. So I was without a car for 3 days, and that had all my clothes in it, literally all my belongings. And so for 3 days, and so I get up in the morning and I go out, I'm gonna go and get a cup of coffee, car's gone. And I'm like, oh geez, somebody stole my car. So I call my girlfriend, I call my girlfriend's dad. Well, that morning, my girlfriend's dad, he's on his way to work, and he's the type of guy, if he sees issues or problems on the side of the road, he's gonna stop. Well, he's headed on the highway, and he sees boxes and clothes thrown out all over the highway, and so he pulls over to stop and pick these things up, and he's looking at some of this clothing, and he's like, man, this stuff looks familiar. So he calls me up and he's like, hey Kevin, I think I found your clothes. Just some freak occurrence, but hey, you know, I liked some of those shirts and sweaters. I had vintage concert t-shirts and things like that, and so I was happy to get them back. Well, 3 days later, they recovered the vehicle, and it was never the same. It got run pretty ragged. They beat the heck out of it and took it up in the mountains and drove it until it died. So it had pop tires and damage, and the locks were all messed up. The ignition had to get fixed, and anyway, my girlfriend's grandma decided to purchase the vehicle back from me, and I went to Alaska the next year, and I ended up getting two vehicles. Actually, I got a little Toyota Tercel and a Camry, and that Camry was a 1994. It was a front wheel drive, just a little Camry LE. It was white, again, another white Camry. My little Tercel was like a seafoam green. That was a cool little car. I've owned two Tercels as well. I owned a red one and a seafoam green. Both were a manual 5-speed. 4-speed or 5-speed, I can't remember. They didn't go very fast. They maxed out at about 75, 80 miles an hour. So I used to live in Alaska. After I left Alaska, I went up there to work for the summer. After I left, got rid of those cars, sold them. And here recently, what was it? 3 vehicles ago, I ended up buying a 79 F-250 Highboy, and the truck needed some work, and so I had my mechanics here at the shop pull the motor. We rebuilt the motor, and it was actually in the shop for about 4 months before it was finally ready to go again. And sorry, my arm's getting tired. I have to switch hands. So once we got it in the shop and got the motor pulled, I took it down to Spokane to have the motor worked on, and I didn't have a vehicle, and so I'm having to hop rides with my wife to work, you know, and she wasn't very thrilled about that, even though I only live 5 minutes from work. So we're arguing after, you know, only a few days, and you know, she's like, oh, this isn't working out very well for my schedule. And I'm like, well, it's not working out very well for me either. So I'm just going to go on Facebook and I'm going to find a $500 car. Well, really rural where we are. So about an hour this other direction is a little tiny town called Medellin Falls. So I went out to Medellin Falls and I found 1986. It was a year before I was born. Beater with a heater. It was like this purple blue 1986 Camry LE. And there's no body damage or rust. I mean, the frame had a little rust. The interior was like pristine. Anyway, the previous owner, they didn't treat this thing very good, which was kind of sad because it's a nice little car. I like the Camrys a lot. It only had 169,000 miles on it. And when I got there, it hadn't run in like a year. And so me and the kid that owned it, he was with his grandma. She was helping him sell it. So we stick a battery in it and make sure it's got good oil and fuel and all this stuff. And we start it up and it cranks and starts up finally. And it's just smoking like crazy, just billowing smoke. And it took a little while for it to clear its throat. And even after I worked on the thing and owned it for a year, I don't think it quite got itself sorted out. I didn't really put a whole lot of money into it. I recharged the air conditioner, changed out the oil and the fuel and spark plugs, and I adjusted the timing on it a little bit, and it ran better, but I think it was still running on like 3.5 cylinders. My mechanics are like, hey, you know, you paid $400 for the car. Yeah, that's literally what I paid. I offered her $400 for the car, and I drove it home. I had to drive it home over a mountain pass, and so I stopped and put ethanol-free gas in it and some sea foam into the fuel tank to try and clear up, you know, the fuel injectors. And it finally cleared its throat. The e-brake was stuck, so the brake had literally fused to the rear drums. So when I took it on a test drive, I stomp on the brakes and it clunk, clunk, clunk. And I look at the guy and I'm like, is that normal? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, cool, okay. So offered him $400, drove it home, and it did fine. That car definitely had a lot of quirks. One of them that was probably the most frustrating is I would literally have to get this car up to operating temperature. If I shut it off before it was up to operating temp, I had to wait until it got all the way back down to cold again. And that was really frustrating because that left me stranded for like an hour at a time sometimes, you know. So but it had character. And if you guys are the type of people that you get attached to your vehicles and the little quirks and the character that they have, I had a good time with that car, man. I'm not gonna lie. It was a fun little car, and despite all its little quirks and, you know, issues, it never wanted to quit on me. It always ran and drove and did what I wanted it to do, and I ended up selling it for a profit. I made $200 on it and sold it to one of our vehicle transport guys who wanted a cheap little car that he could put some money into. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, I kind of miss that little car now. It was a fun little car. So that's my Camry stories, and I've got lots of other vehicle stories to tell you guys. You know, as you can see, got my FJ80 here, and I'm excited to start doing stuff with this thing. I got a big old light bar that it's 52 inch, so it's going to span the entire length of this here, and it looks really good, really good. And I made sure it's bright as heck. 108,000 lumens. The last one I had was 60,000, and I thought that was freaking bright. This one is going to be like a mini sun. Word of advice, definitely don't drive with those on when you're on paved roads. People, they get cranky when you do that type of thing to them. And here in Washington State, it's actually illegal. Anything above, I believe they say, it's like 40 inches, 42 inches is illegal. So it has to be below that point. And even if it is below 40 inches, I mean, you look at my headlights, waist high, that's probably 40 inches. You're going to be blinding people. Don't do that on the road. That's not polite. Now, if people are being jerks, tailgating you, maybe they flip you off, I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's your call. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't done things like that before in my past. So anyway, I hope you guys had a good time watching this video with me and interacting. Please, 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 as always, like, share, comment, leave comments for me. I love hearing your comments, and let's do some more videos, guys. I want to hear what you have to say. So love you guys, and I will see you on the next Kevin Specs.